Welcome, everyone. Sports Journey Broadcast Network with myself, Lake Lewis, right here on the Sports Journey Broadcast Network. Great time last night. I want to thank a couple people who came out to see myself and Washington Redskins tight end Niles Paul from Hooters in Rockville, Maryland. We had just a great time. And if you ever get a chance, please come on out to our shows. Check us out. I think most of the people who come out feel like they're part of the program, part of the broadcast. And that's what we try to do here at Sports Journey, not just myself, but soon you'll be able to see right after me here on the network, Lou Musto, live from New York, as well as Jeff Little back on live from Los Angeles, California. The difference is they're going to all be in video, just like what you're seeing right now, folks. Everyone will be in video, so we're excited about that. And again, I wanted to thank a couple people who did venture out yesterday. Obviously, the crew of Sports Journey, Diane Cheesebro came out. Jesse White, my agent, he came on out. Tommy Lovelace, talent manager, came on out. Simon, he came out. Friend of Tommy's, friend of ours now at the network, came out. Then as far as the guests, we had Niles Paul, like I just mentioned. Appreciate him coming out after, tough loss for the Redskins, losing to the Dallas Cowboys. So I know it was tough for him, but he still, stuck to his guns and had some real candid comments too, as far as just what the Redskins could do to possibly get back on track. Also, good friend Nate Prater came out, got him on the air a little bit. We had Liz Locker Room, her on Twitter is Liz Locker Room. I know her as Liz Robbins. She came out, knocked it out the park, did a great job. And, just so many other people, DJ 6 Cents, from local radio station here in D.C. came out as well. So we had a great time. Appreciate, the people out there in Rockville over at Hooters did a wonderful job making sure everybody was taken care of. And, yes, if you're in Virginia, don't worry. We're going to try to get back to that. I know a lot of people, anticipated us being at the Hooters in Fairfax, VA, but we're going to get back there. Don't worry. And I'm sure everybody will be excited about that as well. So, lots of stuff to go over, folks. Not going to be on for 3 hours today. Just letting everyone know that before you put your feet up and relax. Only 1 hour coming to you today. Tomorrow, though, we will be back on for 3 hours. You'll see me here Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. like it used to be, folks, like the good old days. So, again, we're very excited about that. Hopefully you like what you see. Did a lot here to make this setup real nice for you, and a lot of work went behind this. So, listen, last night I'm watching Indianapolis, San Diego, and, I'm thinking to myself, the Colts have turned the corner. The Colts are one of those young football teams that you look at, and every week they seem to impress you even more. You go back 2 weeks ago when they, beat Seattle, and it was a game where I didn't know what to expect, and they did the impossible in my opinion. A couple weeks before that, they beat the San Francisco 49ers and beat them down rather convincingly in San Francisco. So last night I'm watching them against San Diego, and as the game progresses, actually what I walked away with was San Diego doesn't look like a bad football team. They look like a team that has newfound life, so to speak. And now they're a team that feels like they can make the playoffs in the AFC. With the wide open NFL, not just the AFC, the NFL as a whole is wide open. But you get back to the Colts game, and perhaps, I hate to say this because they're professionals, but perhaps the Colts did what we always say in college football or in high school football that kids shouldn't do, and that's look ahead. You go in college football this week, Clemson struggled a little bit with Boston College, pulled away at the end, but perhaps they were looking ahead to this week's big ACC showdown against Florida State. 2 weeks against Florida State. So, in their next game, they have a bye this week. So perhaps you're looking ahead. Well, I think last night that could have been the case. I think Indianapolis was looking ahead to what's getting ready to come up this week, and we all know what that is. It's Peyton Manning's return. Peyton Manning comes back to Indianapolis, comes back to, I don't want to say he built Lucas Oil. I don't want to say he did that, but you have to give him credit for pretty much anything that's good that's happened with that organization since it left Baltimore. So Peyton Manning returns. Maybe a young Colt team was just so much anticipating this game that they forgot that San Diego's not a bad football team, and they lose. They lose a ugly football game, in my opinion. You look ahead here, and this week, not just on this show, tomorrow you'll hear it, because I'm going to have my agent on, Jesse White, who we have on every Wednesday here on the Sports Journey. I'll have him on. We'll give you our top 5 games, which we always do. I'm not going to tell you what happened during this weekend's predictions. However, we're going to come into tomorrow almost with a clean slate because we're tied now. We have the same record. That's scary. But maybe that's why he's my agent. But anyway, you think about this. Think about this. What's the reception going to be for Peyton Manning? Because clearly the fan base in Indianapolis is a rabid fan base. They love their team. And they love Andrew Luck, as they should. Great young quarterback. But you're bringing back the guy that pretty much gave all those fans in Indianapolis their first memories of pro football, their last memories of pro football. He's going to come back, and clearly he's going to get a standing ovation and a warm welcome. But then you have to play football. What's going to happen after that? Is it now he's yours? Denver, it's your Peyton Manning. We're still rooting for our team. What happens if Peyton Manning drives that team down the field in a game-winning touchdown? Do they get an ovation? Does he get an ovation? Are there going to be people that are going to cheer for him regardless of what happens in the game? Are there going to be people that are going to turn on Andrew Luck for one game, just one game, because they love Peyton Manning that much? Those are going to be some of the storylines and some of the questions that are going to be asked about this game. Needless to say, it's 2 really good football teams. And I think it's a game that, in my opinion, could be a trap game for Denver. Because let's face it, they escaped Dallas. They did. I thought Dallas did everything under their power to give Denver the game, which they did. I'm not going to say it's Tony Romo's fault. We're not going to rehash that. That was talked about all last week. Wasn't his fault. Threw 500 yards. Your defense could have stopped Peyton. They didn't do it. So now, Denver comes into a game that they're going to be the favorite, clearly. They're undefeated. But I think Denver now has something that maybe 2-3 weeks ago they didn't have on them. They have pressure on them. Not just pressure because they're playing a really good young football team in Indianapolis, but they have pressure because Kansas City is still undefeated as well. Yes, surprising, Kansas City. They're still undefeated. So you have to win just to stay afoot, so to speak, just to stay in the situation of having the best record. And if the season were to end today, you'd have home field advantage. I understand it's still early. A lot of football still left to be played. Kansas City and Denver have to play each other twice. But still, you talk about Denver and how great they've looked. I've heard some people in my circles have said Denver's not going to lose a game this year. They have a chance to be greater than the regular season team that was in New England a couple years back. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that. Bottom line is this. If they get one hung on them Sunday night, Kansas City is going to have the best record in the NFL. And that's scary to think about that. A 2-win team last year in Kansas City, Andy Reid right now, coach of the year in my opinion, and I don't even think it's close. I don't even know who you would put second. I don't even know if there should be a second as far as coach of the year. It's Andy Reid's trophy right now. I don't care if they lose 10 in a row. It's Andy Reid's trophy. You've got to give it to him. You might as well start engraving it right now. Wherever they make the NFL Coach of the Year trophy, right now, start engraving A in there. And if you want to help, put R at the end. It's Andy Reid's trophy. Very interesting how this thing will play out. Other NFL news. Breakdown here real quick before we go to break. Matt Schaub's upset, as he should be. Listen, I've been very harsh on Matt Schaub. We did a breakdown right here on Sports Journey. It's right on sportsjourney.com. You can check it out. We did a breakdown as far as our quarterback ranking. Obviously, we did our top 10, but quietly, behind the scenes, the part that you didn't get a chance to see, we actually broke down every quarterback, and we had 1 through 32 as far as starters. Matt Schaub on Lake Lewis's list, I'm not going to hang anybody else out there, but on my list, Matt Schaub was 24. In other words, there were 23 other quarterbacks that I would have taken and I still would take before Matt Schaub. Does that say that Matt Schaub can't do certain things well? Sure. He's a pro. He can do a lot of things well, a lot better than you and I. However, for a team that wants to win a Super Bowl, your quarterback cannot be 24. Yeah, I understand someone's going to throw out a couple names. They're going to throw out the Trent Dilfers of the world. But at the same time, the last time I looked, the Houston Texans defense is not vaunted in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, they have perhaps the best defensive player in the game in J.J. Watt. However, they're not that good on defense either. And right now, it's a sad situation because Matt Schaub gets injured and the crowd erupts. They were happy. They were happy to see him carted off the field. And the sad part about it is he's a guy that's brought a lot of Texans fans joy. I mean, he's a guy that's really put that team on the map since Gary Kubiak became their head coach. And it's sad that fans would want to see anyone get hurt. I mean, it's a game, yes. I understand a lot of emotions are riding on this. Sometimes I think fans, and I have to say it, sometimes I think fans invest a little too much into sports. But, hey, that's just the way I call it. It's okay if you go to sleep at night and all you think about is your favorite team. That's fine. But when you start wishing people get hurt, then you've gone a little bit too far. That's not a fan to me anymore. That's a nuisance. That's a problem. The problem I have with this whole situation is it shouldn't have taken for Matt Schaub to get hurt to get removed. And I've said this on record, and I'm going to say it again today. I think Gary Kubiak is as great of a coach that I think he is, and I think he's a very dynamic coach. I really do. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. I really do. But I think that he's binded his hands almost to Matt Schaub, and that's the problem. You go back a couple years ago, everyone remembers TJ Yates, and I don't mean him throwing 2 pick-6 last week against the Cardinals or against the Rams. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the TJ Yates that actually was quarterbacking as a rookie when Matt Schaub got hurt, and the Texans won 7 in a row. Went into the playoffs and played the Ravens very tough in Baltimore. Could have won that game easily. Had opportunities to win that game. I thought right there that was the time to make the change. And people can say I'm nuts, but I'm a firm believer that you ride the hot hand. I understand that there's some fans out there that don't like that approach, to think that guys shouldn't lose their jobs, because of injury. However, look at how things have normally turned out. You just go back and do the history. You do the math. Look at when a guy's been injured. Look at the guy that's come up. And normally look at what's happened. You've seen guys play themselves into monster contracts as well. I mean, I can look at Matt Castle and say, you know what? Forget what he is now. I'm talking about when he came in, when Tom Brady went out, for the year with a knee injury, first game of the year. Matt Castle came in. That team was 11-5. Just missed the playoffs. And I got to tell you, there were people out there that were saying they did not want to see New England in the playoffs that year. Matt Castle played his way into a big-time contract. Didn't, work out for him, in Kansas City. However, he still got paid. I'm not mad at him at all. Drew Bledsoe, since we're talking about Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe knocked out of a game. Tom Brady comes in. The rest is history. Perhaps the greatest quarterback ever. I'm saying this. There are times when a move has to be made whether you like it or not. That injury, maybe not as ugly, maybe not as graphic, maybe not as memorable as far as Matt Schaub's injury, but I'm looking at that and I'm thinking this is kind of a scenario that I saw here in D.C. when I was younger. A lot of Redskins fans won't admit this, but I remember it vividly. Joe Theismann. When Joe Theismann was carted off the field, when he was hurt, Lawrence Taylor, we all remember that whole horrific scene there. There were a lot of fans at RFK that were cheering that injury because Joe Theismann, up until that point, was really struggling. I mean, you do your history. Look that up. Remember that. He was struggling. And there were people that at that time were saying that Joe Gibbs was sticking with his veterans a little bit too much. It was time to make some changes. And Joe Theismann was struggling mightily. So when he was injured, you bring in the young pup, Jay Schrader, and you saw what he did that year. That team went to the NFC Championship game. The next year, the guy throws for 4,000 yards. All I'm saying, folks, is that sometimes coaches put themselves out there, and I think that Gary Kubiak has done that this time. It should not have taken Matt Schaub to get hurt in order for him to be removed, for them to go with a TJ Yates or whoever else they're going to do. I know Vince Young's out there, and he's tweeting, he's trying to put his name out there. I got to tell you, we talked about this last night on the show. I think I may take a look at Vince Young. Vince Young played pretty well in the preseason when he was in Green Bay. I thought he should have made the team personally, but that's not my decision. That's what they do in Green Bay. That's their decision. However, I thought he played well enough to show GMs, to show coaches that, hey, he still can play football, and he can play it at a pretty decent level. He's got a great talent base if you mesh that in Houston. We all know, legendary down there as far as Texas winning the national championship there. But you think about it. You pair him up with some of the young players that they have there, and you put him in that situation. You give that team a look that they haven't had, because Matt Schaub is a Statue of Liberty. I mean, he's not moving around in the pocket. He's a pocket passer exclusively. So if you put Vince Young in that situation and he can move around, I'm not saying he's going to look like Vince Young, from the first 2-3 years in Tennessee, but he still could be a little bit more mobile and give you some things. So lots of stuff for you to chew on right there. Think about that when we come back. We'll switch gears, talk about the NHL format. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of how this is working out. If you're a Capitals fan locally in the Washington metropolitan area, I know you don't think it's working out. So we'll talk about all that stuff right here. Sports Journey with myself, Lake Lewis. As always, you can go on Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on Sports Journey. You can go on Facebook. For my personal Facebook, it's Lake Lewis Jr. Make sure you put the JR at the end of Lake Lewis. And then on Twitter, it's Lake Lewis. We'll be back.
Homeowners Relief Line can help save your home. We specialize in foreclosure assistance, and that's all we do. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, being threatened with foreclosure, have been denied a loan modification, or been the victim of a predatory loan, it's critical that you call Homeowners Relief Line now. Homeowners Relief Line has a network of attorneys, and our agents are available to speak to you right away. New laws are in effect that may save your home, so call Homeowners Relief Line now.
Welcome to Hooters. Right this way. Wednesday is Wings Day at Hooters. Get 10 boneless wings and fries for just $6.99. Laser
Medical emergencies.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I'm calling for help right now. Sharon, we received a smoke signal coming from your kitchen. Get out now. We're calling the fire department.
Home invasion. Emergencies away from home.
I'm trying to get to my car, but it's still a ways away.
I'm right here and we'll stay on the line with you and we can contact the police if necessary.
And you can have this protection away from home for just $19.95 per month.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-830-1951. That's 1-800-830-1951. Call now.
In 1990, in Severn, Maryland, the daughter of a clergyman was discovered by a music industry insider while pumping gas at a service station. The odds of her getting signed and spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of this former church choir singer going on to sell 40 million records? 1 in 15 million. The odds of the same woman winning 6 Grammy Awards and starring in 2 Broadway plays? 1 in 75 million. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
All right, folks, welcome back. Sports Journey with myself, Lake Lewis, right here on Sports Journey Broadcast Network. Listen, the hockey format that is set up right now, I'm just going to come right out and say it, I'm not a big fan of it. Not a big fan of it at all. And I think that what's happened is the NHL is always trying to change things. You know, I'm not a big fan of Gary Bettman and the way that they've done things with the NHL. I'm just not. I think the NHL, by changing the rules so that you have more of an offensive game and, you know, at times, you know, shifts of 4 and things of that nature, yeah, maybe it's given some excitement, you know, to fans, maybe to the casual fan that doesn't really understand the nuances of hockey. But I've talked to a lot of hardcore hockey fans. I've talked to a lot of hardened hockey fans, and they're not really big fans of the realignment. They're not really big fans of the rules changes. They just feel like hockey could have stayed the way it was. That's not for us to debate here, you know, as far as, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But what I do know is that if you look at the way they've set up the divisions, you have in the Atlantic, you have teams that don't belong. I'm sorry. Detroit is not in the Atlantic. No way, shape, or form. They should not be there, let alone they've moved conferences. And the NHL can justify it all they want and say that they want to balance the leagues out. And they, you know, and I think that there's an opportunity here for, if you're a Boston Bruin fan, you know, to be able to see Detroit, you know, be able to see them consistently now because they're in your division. You'll see them several times a year. You know, if you're a Montreal fan, you know, now you get a chance to see Detroit. Listen, you can do something better than this, because the problem is now you have teams like Florida. You have the Panthers that are not. Florida's a team that's got a Stanley Cup, got 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken, but they don't fit. They just don't fit. And when you look at the Metropolitan, you know, just give me these names, okay? You have the Atlantic. Are you telling me that Boston should not be in the Metropolitan division? Are you telling me that Boston should not be playing Pittsburgh, should not be playing the Islanders, should not be playing the Rangers, the Capitals, the Flyers? Think about this. The Metropolitan. The last time I looked at what the word Metropolitan meant, Metropolitan, in my opinion, means a big city. That's what I thought. So here you are. You have Columbus in the Metropolitan, and you have Detroit in the Atlantic. I'm sorry. I have a problem with the analogy, with the way they've set all this stuff up. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. Yeah, you did keep some of the rivalries going. Obviously, New Jersey and the Rangers. We all know that's a battle for that market. The Islanders are in that group as well. We understand that. We understand that Pittsburgh, you know, and the Capitals have a really nice rivalry. So they're there. We understand that, you know, Philadelphia and all the New York teams, Philadelphia and the Capitals, they have some games. And I understand, I do. I understand that you're never going to break up Boston and Montreal because you're talking about one of the 2 of the original 4. You're not going to do that. But when you set up these conferences, there's no fan interest, and that's the problem. That's the problem. If you ask a casual fan walking down the street, as far as the NHL, to name 15 teams in the NHL, they're probably going to name the main 15 teams. So when I say the main, what is the main, you're probably asking. Lake, what do you mean by the main? I'm talking about the old names, the teams that you can remember. But if you ask most people, and I'm talking about media people as well, if you ask us to name all the teams in the NHL, some people may stumble there. And that's sad. That's saying that there is a lack of interest on a lot of people's parts when it comes to the NHL. I don't think that this name change You know, as far as the divisions and switching teams around, I don't think that that's the cure. I don't. I think it's called marketing better. There were a couple years where the league had a chance to jump on some of their hottest players. I remember a couple years back, the Capitals and Penguins were playing in a really big-time playoff series. And I didn't see Crosby versus Ovechkin. And I don't understand that. I don't know if maybe the NHL wants to, pattern their model after the NFL. We all understand that the way it works is the NBA markets individuals. Yes, they do. If it's the Lakers, if it's the Celtics, yeah, maybe the Bulls, now the Heat as the world champion, two-time world champion, yeah, maybe they can market a team. But let's be honest. All those teams I just named, there's a player that's going to jump to the forefront, that's going to be like the face of even those franchises. When you mention LA, no question, you're talking about Kobe Bryant. When Phil Jackson was there, you could even market Phil Jackson and Kobe Bryant. You could market Shaq and Kobe Bryant and Phil Jackson. Even in Boston, it was the big three for the past several years. They're gone now. So guess what? They're going to market Rondo. That's just the way it is. Miami, two-time champion with perhaps 3 Hall of Famers. Yeah, I still say Chris Bosh is on the fringe. Maybe he's on the fence right now. I don't know if he's grabbing the fence. I thought before he was grabbing the fence and shaking it. Maybe he's backing away from the fence, but he's close to it, okay? The fence being the Hall of Fame. But we already know that D. Wade and LeBron James have hurdled that thing like they were running from the police a long time ago. They're already on the other side of the fence. But make no mistake about it. Who do they market in Miami? Of course, it's the king. It's LeBron James. The NBA markets players. The NHL, I don't know what they're trying to market. I don't know if they're trying to market a player, if they're trying to market a team. I don't know. But all I know is this division alignment reeks. It's not good, and I'm not understanding what is the purpose of it. There's no interest for me, even as a sports media person, to want to see a Phoenix-Vancouver matchup. There's no reason for me to want to see a Dallas-Minnesota matchup. I'm sorry. There's just no reason for that. So when you move a Detroit around and now you're putting them in a stacked East, that's the way I see it, yes. I think if you're talking about namesake and you're talking about power teams as far as just their fan bases, taking nothing away from teams out west. I know LA's had a nice run as well. Colorado's a great fan base. We always know the Avalanche fans are great out there. But you're talking about taking the rabid fans of Detroit. Everybody knows about Joe Louis Arena. Everybody knows about the octopuses being thrown on out on the rink. You're moving that away from a conference. I have a problem with that. I have more of an interest in seeing the Avalanche in Detroit going at it. I have more of an interest, to be able to see a St. Louis Blues Detroit matchup. Those are some of the older teams. Those are some of the matchups that I remember. I remember Brett Hull, Chris Chelios going at it. I don't see that now. And for me, it's taken away from the interest. And I still think that if you change things around too much, you confuse people. The NHL, a lot of rules changes. I mean, I understand, the NFL, for instance, changes some rules. And they're subtle rules, though. They're not the type of rules that I think most hardcore football fans feel like they're going to have to pull out their rules manual and go over it over and over to learn what the changes have been. But the NHL has been slipping this under the wool. They've been slipping this on people for a while. I'm a little concerned about what's going on right now. Maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion. You let me know, as always, via social media. It says right there on the screen. You can see it. Sports Journey on Facebook or Twitter, as well as on my own Twitter. It's Lake Lewis. My own Facebook is Lake Lewis Jr. Make sure, as I implore everyone, make sure you put the JR after Lake Lewis on Facebook, because if you don't, you're going to get a much older gentleman, and that's not me. So, look, we'll take a quick break. Remember, folks, I told you, just an hour today. Tomorrow, we start the full 3-hour program right here, coming up soon, right here on the network. After I go off at 6, you'll have Lou Musto coming on at 6:05 from New York. When he goes off at 9, at 9:05 East Coast time, 9:05 p.m. East Coast time, 6:05 p.m. West Coast time. You'll have Jeff Little live from the locker room, Los Angeles, California. Hang tight.
Let me tell you some of the reasons people get into trouble with credit cards. A job loss or salary cut, an unexpected expense, a divorce, a business loss, or even helping a family member or friend in need. At Consolidated Credit, we understand that debt problems are not about overspending. It's about emergencies and unexpected situations. Consolidated Credit has helped over 5 million people, just like you. The options for getting out of debt have never been better. We can reduce your interest rates, cut your monthly payments, and help you get out of debt fast. The time to call Consolidated Credit is now. There are a lot of ways to get into trouble with debt. There's only one trusted way to get out: Consolidated Credit. When debt is the problem, we're the solution.
Call Consolidated Credit now.
Call toll-free 1-800-426-6016. That's 1-800-426-6016. Call now.
If you're disabled and unable to work, pay attention to the following message.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who are disabled and unable to work, you may be entitled to disability benefits through Social Security. Receiving benefits is your right if you suffer from a physical or mental disability. Whether you're applying for the first time or you've already been denied, we can help. You'll be matched up with an advocate who will evaluate your situation, handle your application, deal with Social Security for you, and handle all appeals. Best of all, there's no fee until you receive your benefits. To get started, call the number on your screen now. And keep in mind, there are a vast number of conditions that make you eligible for disability benefits and dozens of additions that you may not be aware of. So if you're disabled and unable to work, call the Citizens Disability Helpline today for a free, no-obligation consultation.
Call 1-800-735-0219. Call now.
Health insurance update. This just in for all uninsured Americans with or without pre-existing conditions. The recent health care bill will not take effect until at least 2014, leaving families and individuals lacking health insurance with no immediate solution to their concerns. Meanwhile, medical problems continue to be the #1 cause of bankruptcies. Here's the good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide affordable health insurance for all uninsured Americans, and yes, uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Call the number on your screen now, and in less than 10 minutes, you could receive a choice of affordable plans from the Hotline Network. This is not a discount card. You will have access to doctors, hospitals, dental care, infant care, and emergency services. Call the Health Insurance Hotline now and get you and your family covered today.
Call 800-794-1817. That's 800-794-1817. Call now.
That's a good pour. Frosty glass. Perfect amount of foam.
Thanks, Coach.
How's your Bloody Mary?
Spicy.
Wings?
Always fresh, never frozen.
All right. Who's the primary on Spider 2Z Snag?
It's the fullback out of the backfield. If he gets jammed, I'm hitting the flanker on a curl route.
You're good.
I know.
Huddle up at Hooters. Why would you go anywhere else, man?
All right, folks, welcome back here. Sports Journey. Listen, so many things that I want to try to get out, but obviously I'm not going to be able to in an hour today. Another segment coming up here, and then we're out. Listen, coming up in a few minutes, you're going to have Game 3 in Major League Baseball, starting a 4 o'clock game, early game for you out there. You'll be able to see the ALCS, which is tied right now, a game apiece between Boston and Detroit. And I think that this could be one of those make or break games for either team. Now, that's very simple to say, 1-1. But I do think that the winner of this game has the upper hand, because you're talking about two super strong teams have really good pitching. And I think Boston helped their cause in game 2 a lot, because they were on the fringe here, folks. It looked kind of bleak, for Red Sox Nation. And for them to, go back to Detroit with that thing tied up, it's going to get interesting. I wasn't sold on Boston all year long. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if they're going to really be one of those teams that could just maintain the momentum that they had built throughout the year. And they did. They went on and pretty much dominated the American League East, which before the season began, most people were saying had a potential to be the best division in baseball. Baltimore was still, a good young baseball team. The Yankees, well, we all know about the Yankees. They didn't play up to Yankee baseball. Older team. So they're trying to get younger. So now, this is a division that I think going into next year, I think the Orioles will be right there. I do. I think that Boston, though, has put themselves in a position, they're going to be around for a while, folks. I mean, when you stack up some pitching, and some of the trades that they made in the offseason really helped this team. So right now, you have Verlander on the mound, you have Ellsbury on the mound for Boston. This game is pivotal, and I think the winner of this game may go on and win the ALCS. I really do. Will punch their ticket to get to the World Series. On the other side, very interesting. St. Louis is beating the Dodgers right now in their NLCS Championship Series, and it's 2-1. I actually thought the Dodgers could possibly beat St. Louis. I did think that they had the upper hand. But one thing you realize when you watch St. Louis, and I remember this last year vividly against the Washington Nationals, this is a team that does not go away. They don't go away. They're a team that believes that they can get the job done every time, they step out there on the diamond out in the field. And right now, this is another game that it's almost must win situation for the Dodgers. If they lose this game, naturally, they're done. Put a fork in them. They have to win this game. And I think that there's going to be, some fans that are pulling for certain teams to make it. Me personally, I think it would be really interesting to see a Boston matchup against St. Louis. I do. I just think that those teams are gritty, grimy type teams. And I think that would be a very epic World Series. If you want to see offense, then clearly you want Detroit and you want the Dodgers as far as the two teams that are going to get to the World Series. So this thing will play itself out. I think this was, for me, I thought this was a quiet baseball season. I do. And obviously, if you live in the Washington metropolitan area, you were pretty much dumbstruck as far as the Washington Nationals not really playing up to their potential. They came on towards the end of the year, but this was a team that was expected to make a long run, and it didn't happen. And I know a lot of people here in the area just really stopped following baseball when the Nationals didn't play the kind of baseball that a lot of people in this town were expecting. I know, if you go up the road in Philadelphia, did not have a good year. You go up the road twice in New York, the Mets or the Yankees just didn't have a good year. So I don't know if it's just me, but I think it's here on the Eastern Corridor, Mid-Atlantic going up, to New England, outside of Boston, of course. I don't know if the fanfare has been there. And I know, and trust me, I'm just telling you where I sit. You either are a Red Sox fan or you hate the Red Sox. And I know a lot of fans from here to New York that they don't want to watch any baseball anymore because the Red Sox are playing in it. And that's not good to the Red Sox. Obviously, that's a disservice to baseball because they're a great baseball team. At least this year, they were very, very good. And, when this wraps up, I'll try to catch some of it, but I have an assignment that I have to get ready to go to. So, yeah, again, tomorrow, folks, just so you know, tomorrow right here, sportsjourney.com, 3 o'clock, I'll be on live, and I'll have my agent Jesse White on with myself, and we'll be breaking down our top 5 football games that we do, literally every Wednesday we've done it. We missed game 1, week 1, but since then we've been doing it, and it's picked up a lot of steam. A A lot of people like the predictions. What we do, just so you know, is we pick the 5 hardest games in our opinion. Not Denver versus Jacksonville last week, although, for 2 quarters at least, Jacksonville fared very well. And they had Twitter buzzing a little bit, like, what's going on here? However, we try to pick the 5 toughest games. Don't know what those games are yet because haven't really looked. But tomorrow I will have those ready for you as well. Remember, folks, since I'm back on now on Fridays, we have our as Jeff Little. I stole it from him. He's out on the West Coast. He doesn't mind me saying that. He's part of the family here on Sports Journey. But it's Football Fridays. And, we try to break down, just not so much the games because that's what we're doing tomorrow on Wednesday. But Friday is we talk college football. You can talk, your favorite team. We talk fantasy football. It's football. It's football all day. Thursday, just so you know, we talk a lot of college sports. When basketball season picks back up, it's college sports Thursdays here. We try to mix it up, folks. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully you like the scene here in the studio, and we're gonna have a lot of great things coming up. So, listen, college football, real quick before we get out in 5 minutes or so. Alabama still number 1. They're still the team to beat. They're still the Kings. And I have seen that gap close up just a little bit. They're not as dominant as years gone by, and you still have to give them credit, because when you lose a lot of players year in and year out to the NFL draft, I'm talking frontline players, guys that are, making differences right now on teams right now in the NFL. When you lose that kind of talent year in and year out because you're so good, guys now can reap the benefits of their success. You think there's going to be a drop-off, and this team just does not drop off. And Nick Saban, I don't know what he's given these guys. I don't know what's in the water down there, but whatever it is, it's called success. Tastes like success, and they're still number 1. Or are they? Because the Oregon Ducks, folks, they're putting up ridiculous numbers. And I'm not sure if it's just a combination of, who they're playing. I'm not sure if it's a combination of a gimmicky offense. I don't know what it is. But all I know is they're winning, and they're winning big. And they're going to have a couple tests coming up. I think when Stanford plays them, even though, yes, Stanford lost to Utah this past weekend, that was a big upset. Stanford's still going to be a team that's going to be ready. They're going to be ready to play when they do play Oregon. That's going to be a good football game. That's going to be a test for Oregon. You still have UCLA. UCLA's come out of nowhere, folks, ranked 9th right now in the country. And you have to give Jim Moore Jr., you have to give him a lot of credit, because UCLA was dead in the water. I mean, UCLA stunk. Let's just call it what it is. They had a couple runs. I mean, they did a couple things, over the few years, over the past few years. But if you look at what they're doing now, they're winning football games. They're playing pretty good defense on top of that, but they're scoring points. And with the collapse of USC and the whole Lane Kiffin situation, obviously he was fired recently, UCLA has a chance to capitalize in that market. You're talking about a hotbed for football. Los Angeles, California, there's not too many cities out there that can say that they can go with them talent-wise. There are a lot of great players that come out of California, a lot of great players that come out of, go down the road in Long Beach, a lot of players that come out of the state of California as a whole. So if you're UCLA right now, you have an opportunity to maybe steal a recruit that for years would always think that if they wanted to play at the highest of levels, they had to go to Pete Carroll. They had to go to Lane Kiffin when he originally got to USC to replace Pete Carroll. But right now, you may want to look at UCLA. You may want to say, you know what? I'm going to the prettiest campus in town, because I'm just saying. You can ask anybody out there, and I know Jeff Little, when he comes on, he'll break this down a lot more thorough than I will, but that's one of the nicest campuses ever that I've ever laid eyes on is UCLA. It's banging right by the water. Very nice campus. So, yeah, UCLA 9 right now. When they play Oregon, imagine what could happen if UCLA pulls an upset, if they pull a shocker. Not just that, If they were to win by the time they get to Oregon and beat Oregon, I can't even bring myself to say it. It's hard to think this. But perhaps UCLA could be hovering around an opportunity to play for something here. I'm just saying. That's going to be my slogan here. I'm just saying. If you're ranked number 9 now and you have an opportunity to beat the team that's number 2 in the country, who some people are saying could be even better than Bama right now, that's going to increase your chances to play for something more meaningful for yourself. Maybe you can get a little greedy at that point. So UCLA, still hovering around, still there, going under the radar, kind of quiet. A lot of people aren't thinking that they're that good, but hey, they're there. Interesting stuff. College football. It's a lot of teams right now that are still undefeated. One team that is undefeated that I can say right now, don't even count on them. I don't care if they finish the season undefeated, and that's Louisville. They're not playing for a national championship because their schedule is embarrassing. When you have a schedule like that, you should be embarrassed. And I'm sorry, if you're a Cardinal fan right now, a Louisville Cardinal fan, you should be embarrassed for your football program to have a schedule that is that porous. I probably could scrape together 10 other dudes and beat some of the teams that they're playing. That's how bad their schedule is. You can't be rewarded for that. Not if you're looking at an Alabama dodging major flames thrown at them every week. Not if you're, a UCLA team, an Oregon team, who are going to have to face each other. Not if you're an Ohio State team that is still not out of the water. They still have some decent opponents coming up. I don't want to sit there and make the Big Ten out to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. However, they still have the last game of the regular season against Michigan, and everybody always knows that that's a big time rivalry for college football, not just the Big Ten. They still have a Penn State team that has traditionally played them very tough. So you never know what could happen in that. There's still some games to be played. You have Florida State. You have Clemson. You have Miami. The three of them are going to take care of each other as well. My whole point to this is that whoever comes out of their conferences, power conferences, undefeated, that's going to be the national title. The question is, how do you look at these power conferences? How do they rate? Obviously, SEC is number 1. They have 8 teams in the top 25 this week. That's astonishing. That's a record, if I'm not mistaken. So they're the number 1 power conference. But who's the number 2 power conference? Because surprisingly, the Pac-12's doing really well. The Pac-12 could make an argument that they're the second power conference. You never know. You could look at the ACC, who, by and large, has always been a 4-trick pony. Let's just be honest. And it seems that way this year again, because I think Virginia Tech is still in that group with Miami, Florida State. In my opinion, I think that they can play with those guys, and they will get a shot. They will get an opportunity. So if you think about it, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia Tech, those are the 4 best teams in the ACC. They're going to go at it. They're going to figure it out. They're going to have a conference championship game, just like the SEC. So now you think about where these teams play, because it's sad to say that an undefeated Oregon may not be the clear-cut favorite as the second best team in the country, even though I'm saying that they might be the best team in the country just because of their conference, though. Their conference may hinder them. You look at Ohio State. I think that they're the team that has the worst conference as of now. Maybe some things change down the line, down the road, but in my opinion, if you're undefeated and you're Ohio State and there's 2 other teams, a la maybe Alabama, a la Oregon, that are undefeated, Ohio State's not playing for a national title. And the sad part about it is that would have been 24 straight for them. They were 12-0 last year, 11-0, I'm sorry, because they didn't play in a bowl game. They were 11-0 last year. That would be 23 straight games for them that they would win. And that's impressive. And you would think you'd want to reward young men for that. But if your conference isn't one of the top 2 power conferences, and basically, as I said, we already know that the SEC is number 1. So now the question is, it's a race for number 2. Who is going to claim that mantle? Personally, right now, if you were to ask me, if you made me go under oath and say, who does Lake Lewis think is the second power conference right now? I'd have to say the ACC. And that's scary for me to utter those words because I think the ACC from top to bottom is not that good. But I think at the very top, they're great this year. And that's all you have to do. You just have to be great for 1 year. Right now, the ACC, you look at the records of Miami, Florida State, and Clemson, and go back to Virginia Tech. They're 4-1, 5-1. They had an opening day game against Alabama where if it wasn't for special teams miscues and breakdowns, maybe we're talking about somebody else right now and not Alabama. They played Alabama really tough. Probably as tough as I've seen a lot of teams play Alabama this year, at least as far as on the defensive side of the ball. They were giving it to Alabama defensively. They just didn't have any help from their special teams. So Virginia Tech is right there in that conversation as well. So lots of good stuff, folks. Tomorrow, more in depth about all of this stuff. I just wanted to come out, let everybody know I'm back from 3 to 6. I wanted to get something under my belt, get the rust knocked off a little bit as well. If you're here in the Washington metropolitan area locally, you can also check me out on The Fan, which is 106.7 The Fan on CBS Sports Radio. I appreciate the opportunity those guys have given me as well. So lots of stuff going on, folks. As always, you can go to sportsjourney.com. Check us out there. Great talent on the network from different parts of the country. They're working really hard, folks, to make sure that you are entertained. So remember, check us out, sportsjourney.com. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone.